As everyone believed, Bishop T.D. Jakes had seen it all: the conflicts, the success, the fame. A startling new revelation has emerged that is leaving his detractors and supporters in awe. What goes on behind the scenes in one of America's most influential ministries? Everything we believed to be true about T.D. Jakes, his empire, his reputation, and even his faith could be altered by the recent news. You're about to hear what may be the most astonishing twist in his career, so stay with me. We're delving deeply into a breaking story that has the entire religious community talking in today's video. One of the most well-known pastors in the world, Bishop T.D. Jakes, is a best-selling author, filmmaker, and spiritual guide to millions of people. He recently received shocking news that is causing a lot of conversation on social media and in church circles. Jakes has established an unshakable reputation in the public eye and on the pulpit. However, new information is coming to light that may contradict all of the beliefs his fans have developed about him. Something significant is happening behind the scenes, and people are demanding answers, whether it has to do with internal church issues, financial accusations, family revelations, or abrupt leadership changes. This video explains exactly what transpired, what it means for the Potter's House, and how it might affect Bishop Jakes' legacy going forward. And be careful to watch this video through to the finish, because what we learn in the last segment will fundamentally alter your perspective on the entire narrative. This is about more than one individual, so have a seat. It's about influence, power, and the kind of truth that won't go unspoken. Almost immediately after the news about Bishop T.D. Jakes broke, the internet was ablaze. Social media sites were inundated with responses in a matter of minutes. Support, shock, incredulity, and of course, debate. Many people asked the same question, and the tale spread like wildfire. Is this really the case? Bishop Jakes has been regarded as a strong and wise voice in the Christian community for many years. Millions have been impacted by his sermons. His publications have reached the top of bestseller lists, and his seminars have attracted audiences from all around the world. However, many are questioning whether there is a secret aspect to his influential ministry that few have ever seen in light of this most recent revelation. Sources close to Jakes' Dallas megachurch, Potter's House, have confirmed that something significant is taking place behind closed doors, according to many reports making the rounds online. While some insiders see it as a watershed moment, others say it's the most significant test of his leadership to date. Whatever the situation is, it's obvious that Bishop Jakes and his ministry team are not operating normally, even though the specifics are still being worked out. His congregation members are in disbelief. Many people have expressed their bewilderment and heartache on social media, claiming that they never anticipated hearing such alarming information about their spiritual leader. Others, on the other hand, support him and maintain that people should hold off on passing judgment until the facts are known. Now that major media sites are looking more closely, some are speculating that this might be a long-brewing internal problem that has been discussed for months but has never been verified. Even though Bishop Jakes hasn't said much thus far, his silence has just increased conjecture. Not simply the news itself, but also everything it stands for, is what makes this moment so important. An uncommon look at the politics, demands, and difficulties of running one of the biggest ministries in the world. Jakes has long been revered as a spiritual icon, a visionary who ascended from modest beginnings to become one of the most significant religious figures in the world today. However, as history has demonstrated, even the most esteemed individuals may encounter situations that put all they have worked so hard to achieve to the test. It appears that this could be one of those times when new information suggests that the problem might be more complex than initially thought. Some are implying that it might reveal a spiritual and personal crisis in addition to a leadership one. But before we draw any conclusions, let's have a look at how it all started and what caused the startling development that has now drawn attention from all around the world. We must first examine who Bishop T is in order to comprehend why this recent occurrence has generated such a commotion. What Jakes really is, and how he rose to become one of the most influential and divisive people in contemporary ministry. T.D. Jakes, whose real name was Thomas Dexter Jakes, was not a wealthy or privileged person. He was raised in a working-class household with strong Christian ties in South Charleston, West Virginia, where he was born. Jake displayed a unique blend of empathy and leadership from an early age. Jake was already displaying an uncommon interest in ministry, preaching to small groups and motivating individuals twice his age, while other children his age were preoccupied with playground games. His ascent wasn't simple either. He experienced adversity and rejection early on. He had to assume adult responsibilities far too soon after his father died when he was only a teenager. Nevertheless, he persisted in following his calling throughout those challenging circumstances. In a modest storefront church in Montgomery, West Virginia, he began with a small group of followers and preached with an unmistakable fervor and fire. News of this young pastor who spoke with conviction and unvarnished honesty gradually circulated. His voice was believed to have power, that his sermons were more than just words. It was a tangible sensation. Before long, the sound of that voice could be heard well beyond the confines of the little church. By the early 1990s, Jake was becoming well known across the country. The publication of his stirring sermon series, Woman Thou Art Loosed, marked his breakthrough because it addressed the suffering and resiliency of women who had been damaged by life. The message struck a deep chord, inspiring a national conference, a best-selling book, and even a feature film. Jake became well known throughout America, not only in religious circles. His influence exploded from there. In Dallas, Texas, he established the Potter's House, a massive church with more than 30,000 members today. Global leaders, politicians, and celebrities attended his sermons. He was consulted by presidents. Stars from Hollywood came to his services. Every week, millions of homes watched his television programs. Bishop T.D. Jake was much than just a pastor to many. He was an inspiration, a life coach, and a spiritual father. However, considerable influence frequently attracts great attention. Jake has been criticized in a number of ways over the years. Some accuse him of commercializing the gospel, while others doubt his theology. But he looked unassailable in spite of all the difficulties. Jake always returned stronger, more determined, and even more respected than his detractors had predicted when his ministry faltered. This is why the current state of affairs has shocked the religious community so much. It seems almost unreal to see a guy of his caliber who has aided presidents, restored families, and led millions of people to faith, suddenly in the heart of debate. A spiritual giant seems to have been compelled to face his most human moment. This is where things start to go south because, according to several people with knowledge of the matter, the shocking information that is currently making the rounds wasn't unexpected. According to some, it has been developing in the background for months or even years, silently boiling beneath the surface, with only the polished, strong facade visible to the public. We'll look more closely at what might be going on behind closed doors in the following section. The decisions that could permanently alter the Potter's home, the internal strife, and the murmurs. Because if what these accusations indicate is accurate, it has the potential to change not only Bishop Jake's legacy, but also the way that mega-church leadership is perceived globally. Every strong empire has a backstory that the general public seldom knows about. A tale of silent conflicts, unsaid tensions, and vulnerable times. Bishop T.D. Jakes seemed to be above it all for years. Calm, collected, and totally in charge. However, the reality of the Potter's House may not be as flawless as it first appears, as insiders have started to disclose. Whispers were the beginning of it all. Longtime members of the ministry started to notice minor adjustments. Some claimed that because longtime employees were abruptly leaving without giving a public explanation, leadership meetings had become acrimonious. Others brought up stories of differences over the management of specific church activities and financial conversations that appeared suspiciously secretive. These initially appeared to be typical growth difficulties for a large ministry. The Potter's House is more than just a church, after all. It is a large international organization, an annual budget in the millions, collaborations with large firms, and a production arm. However, the tone of those murmurs evolved with time. A few former employees started to speak up, raising the possibility that something more serious was going on within the company. Something related to both the personal toll that comes with having such a big responsibility and leadership issues. Managing a mega-church of this kind is no easy task. Every choice is carefully considered. Every step is examined. and even a man of religion can crumble under that type of pressure, according to one insider. Months of internal reorganization, private meetings, and mounting senior staff anxiety were detailed by ministry insiders. According to some, Bishop Jake has been dealing with a lot of personal stress as he juggles the obligations of his family, career, and ministry, while attempting to preserve his reputation as a rock of stability. And this is the point at which things become tricky. There have been rumors that the Potter's House is at what some are referring to as a leadership crossroads. Although the church has not formally confirmed it, a number of independent voices assert that a significant change is imminent, one that may completely reorganize Jake's ministry. Plans for a generational transition involving his children, especially his daughter Sarah Jakes Roberts, who has emerged as a well-known preacher in her own right, are mentioned by some. Some people think there's more to the story, that the shocking news might be related to a struggle for power, money, or moral responsibility. Furthermore, it wouldn't be the first time a prominent religious figure has had similar difficulties if it were the case. The obligation and difficulty of maintaining transparency increase with the size of the ministry. Numerous churches have experienced crises over the years that started as little arguments that escalated to the point where they were uncontrollable rather than with embarrassing headlines. It seems nearly unthinkable to many that something like this could occur under Bishop Jake's direction. This is the man who advocated for honesty, resiliency, and regeneration. The man whose whole brand revolved around mending brokenness and helping people get through difficult times. Yet, as the adage goes, invisible pressure can cause even the strongest skyscrapers to collapse. The fissures are now beginning to appear. There is a rising sense of uneasiness in the congregation, according to several lifelong members. Attendance trends are changing. Reports on finances are being examined. Hard questions are also being asked. Is the mystery now just too big for one guy to run, or is there a more serious problem that is just now becoming apparent? Social media has magnified everything, making the situation even more heated. People are analyzing every word in Jake's earlier sermons, searching for hidden messages or indications that he was hinting to his current problems. Some people feel sorry for him, claiming that he is being unfairly singled out. Some believe that now is the time when the truth will finally be revealed. But there is one thing that cannot be denied, regardless of one's stance. Few could have predicted the ways in which Bishop Jake's decades-long work of establishing trust is now being put to the test. And a fresh development surfaced just when it appeared that things couldn't get any more difficult. One that would elevate the whole narrative to a level nobody could have predicted. It was like a spark in a dry forest when the first headline appeared in major media channels. The tale went viral. Within a few hours, Bishop T.D. Jakes related hashtags started trending on several media. Podcasts analyzed it, YouTube discussion channels blazed with conjecture, and news anchors talked about it on morning broadcasts. No one wanted to remain silent, and everyone had an opinion. In particular, there was a rift in the Christian community. Some supporters came together and fiercely defended Jake. Some were much less forgiving, but they flooded comment sections with statements of faith and solidarity, such as, "We stand with Bishop Jake. No weapon formed against him shall prosper." They called for openness and questioned why a well-respected leader would let scandals and rumors rage without taking decisive action. Something strong was revealed in this moment: how brittle the boundary between popular opinion and faith can be. Because more than just T.D. Jake's reputation is on the line when he is a controversial figure, millions of Christians' faith, his message, and his ministry are all on the line. Online commentators and television hosts started posing the same urgent query: what is the Potter's House actually doing? There was no hard proof to back up the claims that the ministry was being audited for financial irregularities in its commercial activities. Others muttered about potential changes in internal leadership, power conflicts within the family, and even discreet departure of important employees. It felt like a new exclusive was released every day, each one promising to provide more information. The story was quickly picked up by major entertainment blogs, which blurred the distinction between rumor and fact until it was nearly difficult to tell. The tale really took a turn for the worst at that point. Jake's sermons started to become viral once more. They were being reinterpreted by viewers, not because of their inspirational content. Jake once said, "Sometimes God has to shake your foundation to reveal what's been hiding beneath." In one footage from years ago, the comments, which were intended to be a lesson of personal development, were suddenly being shared out of context, presented as evidence that he had anticipated this problem all along. In the meantime, Potter's House members began to voice their opinions in brief, heartfelt videos posted online. Some others were devastated, saying they never thought their church, which has cured so many people, would be hit by such a storm. Others rejected all of it, describing the incident as a concerted attempt to undermine a divine man. According to local Dallas news outlets, church attendance has been erratic in recent weeks, with some regular attendees choosing to stay at home due to uncertainty. Financial analysts reported a modest decline in donations. However, the church has not provided official figures. Even so, the visuals were sufficient to spark conversation. The answer, or rather, the absence of one, came next. At the height of the media hysteria, Bishop Jake remained almost silent. No public statement, no social media post, no press conference. The silence was startling for a guy who was renowned for his powerful speech and strong presence. Some view it as wisdom, a leader deciding to be quiet rather than cause trouble. Others saw it as avoidance, a refusal to directly face the escalating fire. This quiet becomes a narrative in and of itself. News analysts started analyzing his silence, discussing if it was a tactic or an error. Even late-night talk shows brought it up, fusing curiosity and comedy as they talked about how America's pastor had abruptly stopped talking on the radio. But something was going on behind that stillness. Insiders claim that Jake was having private meetings to decide how to proceed with a select group of advisors, relatives, and spiritual gurus. According to several sources, these sessions are prayerful but tense. Some claimed that the bishop appeared to be quite introspective and more concerned with self-reflection than appearance. If that is accurate, it implies that the man in the pulpit is dealing with a personal storm in addition to a public one, a reckoning that tests his faith and his leadership. Nevertheless, a peculiar thing started to occur in the middle of all this pandemonium. Instead, Bishop Jake's sermons began to receive even more views on the internet. His voice now drew in viewers who had never seen him before, who were attempting to learn more about him than just the headlines. It seemed as though the dispute had compelled people to pay more attention to him, rather than diminishing his influence. There are still unresolved questions. What caused this crisis in the first place? Was it a straightforward miscommunication exaggerated, or something even more profound? Something that might permanently alter the pottery maker's home? It appears that the answers may be found in what will happen next, rather than in the media stories. In the heart of the man at the center of it all, among the church's leaders, and inside the church itself. Because the decisions that will be revealed in the next phase of this story could shape Bishop Jake's legacy for decades to come, according to multiple reliable sources with knowledge of the matter. The world waited for weeks. Every action Bishop T.D. Jake took was monitored by reporters, churchgoers, and interested bystanders who scanned his social media accounts in anticipation of a press release and a statement that would finally end the rumors. But nothing appeared day after day. Quiet. The stillness was finally broken one Sunday morning. That day, the mood at the Potter's House was electrifying. Millions of people watched online, and many had assembled in person. A mixture of eagerness and worry filled the cathedral. Everyone was aware that this would not be a typical service. Bishop T.D. Jakes entered the stage gently after the choir finished singing and the lights went down. He appeared composed but not unaffected. His countenance conveyed the weight of a man who had experienced both private suffering and public condemnation. There was a sense of tension in the air as the congregation stood cheering and clapping. Everyone was aware of their purpose. Everyone was anticipating his next statement. Finally, he said something. His rich, measured voice had been dominating the room for the past few weeks. The future of Potter's home, this ministry, and me have all been the subject of rumors, stories, and opinions. Even if I have so far remained silent, I have a duty to my people and the God I serve to convey the truth, not through rumors, but via grace. The room seemed to be holding its breath. He didn't speak louder. He didn't snap. Jake, on the other hand, talked with the cool authority that had brought him fame. This time, however, there was a different tone, one of vulnerability, even sadness. He admitted that spiritual leaders are not exempt from hardship, that mistakes can be made, and that leadership entails pressure. "I've been carrying this ministry for decades," he remarked. "Since then, I've discovered that even shepherds can grow tired. However, I am still supported by the same God who called me." Many people in the audience started crying only at those words. Panned across emotive faces were cameras. Families, young believers, visitors, and lifelong members all came together in that moment of candor. Then came the turning point in the story. Jake acknowledged that the ministry had experienced difficulties, conflicts, changes, and tense times. He didn't deny the existence of internal conflicts, but he also didn't confirm every rumor. He discussed candidly the challenges of generational leadership, legacy, and growth management. He claimed that when a tree gets big, its branches must reach farther than its roots could have ever dreamed, and wind can shake us if we don't fortify those roots. Within hours, that one line became viral. Every possible platform saw it uploaded, shared, and quoted. Perhaps the most impactful aspect of his speech, however, was when he acknowledged himself rather than the organization. "I'm not flawless," he said. "I am not impervious to pain or above discipline. I want you to pray not to feel sorry for me, but to pray, because I am a man, a husband, a father, and a servant before I am a bishop or a leader." Applause erupted across the sanctuary. People were standing there yelling encouragement, while some lowered their heads. Others sobbed. Online viewers even reported getting shivers when they saw one of the most well-known pastors in the world appear vulnerable in front of his own flock. Then, without wrath or accusation, he spoke straight to the media frenzy. "I forgive you because you cannot see the full picture when you only look through broken glass," Jake said to people who had conjectured, criticized, and made assumptions. He closed his Bible, took a deep breath, and prayed over his audience. "But I pray that one day the truth, the whole truth, will speak for itself." A prayer for everyone who has ever been judged or misunderstood, not just for himself. Social media erupted once more after the service. However, the tone was different this time. Trending hashtags included #GraceOverGossip and #WeStandWithJakes. Even some of his previous detractors said that they respected him again because of his poise and modesty. His lecture was one of the year's most watched live sermons, according to major outlets. Clips were all over the place. In a few hours, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube received millions of views. What his comments actually meant was up for discussion. Was it a warning, a rebirth, or a confession? Although everyone had a theory, one was obvious. Bishop Jake had taken back his story. However, behind the scenes, insiders disclosed that this was only the start of a more significant change. Quiet conversations had place on reorganization, the potential promotion of new leaders, and possibly his family's future function in the ministry. According to others, the bishop was getting ready to change his priorities and take a break from some duties in order to mentor the new generation. For others, this was just the quiet before a storm. In any case, this was the pivotal moment, the meeting point of the message, the myth, and the man. Bishop Jakes had told the truth, but there was still a question that the world had to answer.